just stopped by a little place where I could smell the scents, and it made sense to stop for a bite of lunch. Look at that, hearty, tasty and very filling. Now, one of my audience tried to get me to admit today that I was starting to fall in love with cycling. I have to say, I've just come down about a 7 kilometre stretch, and I've descended about 130 metres, so a nice gentle slope downwards. And there are some parts of cycling that I don't mind. The slow, gentle descent where you don't have to use your brakes too much. Get up to sort of 40 kilometres an hour and it's not too hazardous. And not doing any pedalling. So one part of cycling I do enjoy is the main part of cycling that makes it cycling, at pedalling, when going downhill. But the best part is feeling all these little bugs slap into my face as I'm going down. And although they sting a bit, I just know that I'm committing mass insecticide as I'm rolling along. But as you can see, once you stop, these bugs are just a menace. They get under my helmet, I don't think they're biting my head, but certainly irritating. I have to get moving again because they're just intolerable. Well, it doesn't happen very often, but tonight I'm in luck. I found a campsite that was closed when I arrived, but the guy came out and I asked him if he had an emplacement pour randonneur de vélo, a pitch for a cyclist, and he said, "Oh, of course, you look like you've been cycling all day. Please come and rest and take your time." So that's what I'm going to do. So far since I've arrived, there are a whole lot of bugs flying over my phone, but they haven't really attacked me, and I'm starting to wonder whether they are attracted to the orange jacket when I'm wearing it, and whether wearing the yellow jersey they think that I'm some kind of great champion not to be messed with. The grand fields of Burgundy has got a lot warmer. The little bugs have actually diminished. The guy in the campsite this morning told me that this time of year they come out after the rains, and there's about a week of sunshine ahead of me, so hopefully these little buggers will die off. A lot of climbing this morning, not at all pleasant, some of it very steep and long, but the rest of today is either downhill or just a very gentle slope that don't even notice as I'm going along. I've got to find somewhere to eat. There was nothing in the next village other than a boulangerie, and I've got quite connected to the Turkish and Moroccan kebab places. The kofta and the Adana plates are hard to turn away, but I do have another major meal in mind, and a story that's not about the Earl of Sandwich. So I've just stopped in a little village park along the Canal de Bourgogne. There's been a lot of climbing today. I've climbed up about 55 locks so far. On my way to the top, covered about 65 kilometres. but I'm keen to get to the top another 30 kilometres today before an easy ride down to Dijon tomorrow. Today's Sunday and it's not easy to get food. I did find a little convenience store earlier where I got a few drinks and I was looking for something to eat. I decided I wanted an ice cream, but the only thing they had were these tubs of ice cream. A half-litre tub. It's quite fancy. So I bought it. It was French vanilla with these specks of real vanilla pod through it. A Tip Top could learn a trick or two, I think. So I got my camping spoon out and found a picnic table and sat down and started eating it, and I got about halfway through and I realised that the specks of vanilla were getting bigger, and I looked a little bit more closely and it turned out that some of the bigger specks of vanilla pods were actually very small flies that enjoyed the ice cream as much as I did, so I stopped halfway through. To be fair, I only wanted one ice cream anyway, so half a tub is about right. Other than that, just trying to keep enough fluid in today. It's very hot, up over 30 degrees most of today, and it's just become overcast, which at least gives me some sun protection. As I say, in Dijon tomorrow, where I'll be looking for a famous dish, and I'll also be trying to see if I can find any mustard, because there's been a global mustard shortage. So Monday morning, riding down the canal now on my way to Dijon. About 45 kilometres left to go. It's just before 8 a.m. Morning's pretty chilly, but it gets very warm in the afternoon, so just keen to do this final leg before breakfast so that I'm not sweltering it out, and so that I can enjoy the delights of Dijon, the largest settlement in Burgundy, and there's a particular Burgundy delicacy that I've been hanging out for some time. So yesterday I arrived in Dijon, and now I have time warped my way via a train, 4 trains actually, to Basel in Switzerland. I've got one more train to catch before I arrive in Zurich to spend a couple of nights with a dear friend from the Camino, and then I'm going to travel down to Geneva and finally finish my tour in Lyon. So for those of you that thought I was finishing in Paris, I'm afraid I've still got some more kilometres to go. I'm on the shores of Lake Geneva after a couple of nights in Zurich. I've travelled down to Geneva today for my last leg of the Tour de France. I'm staying at a very Swiss campsite. It's very clean, very proper. The facilities are excellent. And being very Swiss, it's also very expensive. I've set up my tent. It's quite busy here, as you can see. And I'm about to head off to get some food for tonight. At the moment, the World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference is just winding up in Geneva, so lots of friends and acquaintances are just celebrating there tonight. But I'm going to be at my campsite cooking something for dinner, something typically Swiss, no doubt, and having a little celebration that I'm close to the end of this thing called cycling. This is getting quite scary. I am officially playing with fire. A very nice French lady who was using the communal barbecue offered me some charcoal and some burning embers to put my very long sausage on the fire. It's going to be my main course tonight, and I've also got some lentils, which I haven't heated yet, but they provide good roughage, which is something you need along the Tour de France. It's taking a while to cook, but I think the flavours of natural charcoal make the wait worth it. There's nothing in the Bible stories about how men were born in fire, but I think even though this bit of sausage took me probably an hour and a half to cook to get to the right temperature, it is definitely worth it. Thank you, fire. It's been a very hot morning and now afternoon out of Geneva, now up to 34 degrees in the sunlight. I've done a lot of climbing. My maps have not been working well. Both the route I had planned from cyclotourism and Google Maps are all sending me off in strange places, but I am following the Verona track, which so far, as long as I don't veer off it, is not too bad. About 300 meters ago, I passed the border from Switzerland into France, and it was very uneventful. There was no welcoming committee. Nobody there to check me for contraband. The language didn't even change. It was very smooth. Nobody there, nothing. I just looked up my map and realised I was in a completely different country. But going through the forest, I have to say, the last few hundred metres have been much more neutral. And I know that it's going to get more aggressive soon as France starts to assert its culture, history and language all around me. Now, there are some very intimidating mountains just over there. I never trust my bearings, but I am hoping that this is the Rhone Valley just through the middle here. And that I won't have to climb them, because if I have to climb them, I will be a very unhappy Tour de France winner. But we'll see. Maybe there'll even be a supermarket up here. I'm running relatively low on water, but at least I've got some clean water bottles. I made a point in Zurich of using my friend's dishwashing machine, which is quite an amazing machine. You just put dishes and bottles and things inside it, and you push a button and then they come out clean. But they definitely needed it, because when I was back in France, I was filling, I thought I'd cleaned it properly and filled up with water again, and got about 2/3 the way through, and I saw this big black blob of mould that fortunately I didn't drink, but it made me realise that I should clean my drink bottles more than once every 2 weeks, because they do get a bit filthy, and perhaps if I only put water in them from now on, that will stop the bacteria from accumulating. So hopefully there's a supermarket. I need something to eat and I need more drink. And in this climate, you have to keep your fluid levels up. And as you can see, I'm not exactly avoiding these mountains here, but you can see the Rhone just slithering its way through the middle. It's quite a way down, so there's been a fair bit of climbing, but I'm generally going through the valley. I can just see some, not sure if you can make out of some medieval mountain caves there. You would have to have been quite afraid of your neighbours to have decided to put a perch up there, or maybe it was for folks who had done something really terrible in the olden days and they hadn't managed to sharpen the guillotine to punish them, so they made them walk, feed and provide for themselves halfway up there. The views looking over the Rhone Valley are quite spectacular. I have to say though, they are not worth it. I was cycling along a mountain pass with very heavy traffic going downhill, and suddenly I saw to the side of me a 400-metre drop down into the river, and so I gently slammed on my brakes and avoided puking all the way into the river, and I realised just how terrifying cycling along a mountain pass can be. But I did find an alternative route that has a little bit more climbing, but fortunately no traffic. The road I was on when I had my come to Jehovah moment was crawling with storming with very fast cars. I'm the only one here right now, except for a pod of bulls just over there. They were very friendly and almost wanted me to stop for a chat. I can't shoot them anymore. This whole black cloud is coming down. Feels like I'm knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, 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 knocking on heaven's door. Woohoo! It's the golden hour at my campsite. I've been here a couple of nights. I'm 65 kilometers out of Lyon, so I can make Lyon in a day. But the weather has been so ridiculously hot, up to 36 degrees, that I've decided to just take it slowly down to Lyon. I have another 3 days before I need to be in Lyon. So I thought there is no reason why I have to face the most appalling heat that France has had in this part of France in June. So tonight's meal is chili con carne, just an easy meal I picked up from the supermarket earlier today, and I'm going to get through it quickly. So after almost 2 months of riding a bike, first time in 30 years, as I complete the Tour de France, about close to 4,500 kilometers. I'm now on my last day into Lyon. I have about 90 kilometers to cover, but first things first, priorities, breakfast. Got a café allongé and 2 croissants to get me through the first part of the morning, and a ham and cheese sandwich. Very much looking forward to the sandwich when I finally get around to it. It rained very heavily last night, and very stormy, lots of rolling thunder. But the forecast for the next 5 or 6 hours is pretty clear and hopefully not too hot. Some of you who are very observant may have noticed that I have had a haircut, and I can gleefully say, as somebody who doesn't like to spend a lot of money on his hair, it just looks naturally very good, that this particular haircut cost me no money at all. A guy in the campsite came up to me. I'd been drinking and eating and singing at the Fête de la Musique with him the night before, and he asked me if I could cut his hair with his clippers. So I agreed, and he looked very fashionable, and then I used the clippers to cut my own hair. Christophe tried doing it first, but there were chunks that were still there that shouldn't have been. So I had hoped that having less hair would cause me to sweat less, but I have found today cycling that I sweat just as much, but my hair doesn't absorb the sweat, so I end up dripping sweat all over myself and my bike. So at least it takes less shampoo to clean. Well, this is it. I have arrived at my final destination. For those of you who thought I was finishing my Tour de France in Paris, actually here I am in Lyon, France's second city, about 70 kilometers south of where I started just on 2 months ago in Bourg-en-Bresse. I did go to Lyon on my first day of the tour, and my magical display of direction was for all to see as I lapped the KFC 10 kilometers 3 times. But here I am in Lyon, France's second city, and it is quite spectacular. The Romans discovered this place as a strategic value. It's right at the confluence of the Rhône and the Saône rivers, and so they started a settlement here. And 2,000 years later, it's quite a thriving place. There were 2 Roman emperors born here, and for the last 500 years since the Renaissance, it's been the heart of French banking here in the east of France, a few hundred kilometers from Geneva, about 600 kilometers from Paris. is where, in the yellow jersey, I am calling it a day for my bike tour. It's been 2 months, 4,300 or so kilometres. Not that I was always counting, especially when I was getting lost. But that's it. I think I've successfully proven that not only am I the undisputed heavyweight reigning world champion of cycling, but that it is such a terrible activity. Anybody I know who is thinking of taking it up will have learned a lesson from my discomfort. I will be making a few more videos of my upcoming adventures, including some other world-beating activities, but it's likely I will be eating far fewer cans of food in the weeks and months to come.